Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the C-Man, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down. Not gonna lie to you, I have two other reviews recorded, and I did not think I was gonna get to the show at all today, just because of the way my day is, being my birthday and all, and I have plans later. I figured I'd only get to watch one or two episodes, and I probably was thinking about tackling this the way I did Shadow and Bone, where you get three episodes, just kind of like how I feel about the show, and then the full show review later on. But I tell you what, I had to change my game plan, and maybe this will be an episode by episode type review, because hot damn, the first episode blew me away, man. Like, it blew me away in a way like The Boys blew me away when I first watched that. Like, there's stuff that goes down in the last 10 minutes of this show, and just stuff in the show in general that I was not expecting, and it was so good. I was like, nah, man, we need to sit down and talk about this. Plus, I got some reactions to show you. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in spoiler-free, and then a little spoilery, into Netflix's Jupiter's Legacy. And I tell you, man, I got really pumped when this first trailer dropped, and finally getting to see the first piece of Netflix's Mark Millar world, or Mark Miller world. I always say Millar because that's how it's spelled, but I believe it's pronounced Miller. But, when Netflix acquired the Miller World stuff, I got really excited, because I know that there's a lot of diehard fans and a lot of good stuff. I've seen bits and pieces, not so much from this comic, but from some of other things that Miller's done. And the idea of Netflix diving into any of it got me excited. And when I saw the trailer for this, I got so stoked. I haven't had a chance to check out the comic yet, but the trailer made me want to go read the comics, and I might have to work them in maybe as I'm watching this show, because hot damn, they get out to a fast start. This is a really cool superhero show, and much like The Boys, takes more of a gritty, real life, like, when superheroes punch each other, this is what happens kind of approach, unlike, Marvel and even DC to some extent. I mean, DC definitely goes a little bit more graphic than Marvel stuff does, but, The Boys is in a whole different class, and at least one episode in, Netflix seems like they're saying, hey, we're trying to dip our toe into the boys' land of superhero stuff, even more so than the Umbrella Academy, which is another show that I love on Netflix. We know they can do the superhero stuff, but there's something different when you're talking about a show with all superheroes that fly and have cool superpowers, and that's the thing that I really loved just from the story setup in this first episode, is introducing you to a world where all of our heroes seem to be able to fly and do, more superhuman, superpowered type things. We usually get a good mix of, some humans who have figured out ways to be super, some gods, some aliens, and I still don't know how they got their powers, one episode in. But what they show you was just some of the visuals you get, like I said, in that last 10 minutes, so damn good. What you get in that last 10 minutes, you just saw some visuals that were cool, because very rarely do you have all of your superheroes with the ability to move around in the air. So they just did some cool stuff, and what Miller's story is tackling just in this first episode, man, it's a really cool look into superheroes. Just the way that Josh Duhamel's The Utopian looks at things, right? He mentions a code, which is something that's pretty standard amongst superhero, shows and comics. And it's typically you don't kill, you do good. You're figuring you're probably somewhere in that zone. But as you get to go a little bit more into his code and what certain things mean, there's a really interesting look, and specifically in how involved superheroes get in the real world. There is a really interesting take on that not only allows this show to be so current, there are things that flat out are mentioned almost in a list order, but things that they're discussing nevertheless are things that are relevant now, and the way they can tie back in time, and it's just a really cool look, and it's a conversation that you see between the Utopian and his brother Brainwave. It's this when they're just sitting down having a beer, and they start talking about stuff, and specifically not just current event stuff, but the concept of old and young, the idea of a new generation. And that's the other interesting aspect of looking at superheroes in this show. Already, one episode in, is the way that it's looking at, like, the way the young generation takes the idea of being a superhero and having superpowers versus the old, and the original group were regular humans who got powers. This new generation, they're their kids. They were born with these powers. So already, like, they're only gently touching on these things, but you can see the things they're setting up where you're like, conversation-wise, I'm like, this is a really, really interesting story. And, much like, other shows and properties that we've seen, specifically something like Invincible, you kind of can see vibes where this is a comic that exists in a world after superheroes, existed, and you can kind of see where some of the power sets and different ideas come from, but the way in which you approach it from a story is what makes these things fascinating, makes these characters rich, even if they have powers that are similar to other, characters that we've seen in the world. And I really do like the take that they have here, and I really enjoy this cast. While we've only had an episode and only briefly met the majority of our heroes and have spent, some time with the Samson family, which is the Utopians family, it's interesting. The Utopians, the Samson family is an interesting dynamic from the mom and dad and the uncle and the two kids. Like, it's just an interesting family dynamic, and I like the way in which they go about it. We get to see them have dinner at one point, and like that was just kind of like a cool scene where you get this kind of real family sense that sometimes isn't ever discussed with superheroes. It was another thing, again, with Invincible that I dug in, like trying to take a look at being in the real world as just people and heroes. And again, that ties into how they look at themselves as heroes and where they interact and whatnot. But the reason that I had to sit down and go, I gotta review this show, is while we could go through every character, and like I said, we've only kind of briefly touched on some people. But the last 10 minutes, they set up like an event is happening, and you're like, okay, cool, let's see what we get from this. And it actually includes some of the stuff that we saw in the trailers that was not stuff I expected to see this early. And there is a pop by the end of that final 10 minutes where I was like, oh, this is gonna be this kind of superhero show. Like, you take all my money, Netflix. Like, I already give it to you monthly, but like, take all of it if this is what you're gonna give me. Like, I love that Marvel and DC exist, and you can get the brighter world certainly in Marvel, sometimes in DC. But you kind of play it to an audience that should be generally for kids, definitely on the Marvel side of things. And I appreciate that Netflix and Amazon are diving into these grittier superhero comics, right? Like, if you're going to compete with the big dogs and the names that everybody knows, you got to find ways to make your shows pop. And sometimes graphicness and really, really cool visuals will get that to pop. And the visuals that we get in that last 10 minutes, woo, man, they were so freaking fun. And one episode in, I already love Jupiter's Legacy, man. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jamal and what he's doing here. We spend the most time with, him as the Utopian. I dig what he's doing. I like the idea of him being the patriarch of this family. I'm interested to see more of the family dynamic from, his wife, Leslie Bibb, to his two kids. Like, there's a real interesting dynamic with the fact that, like, his kid wants to be able to carry on this legacy, and the daughter don't really give a damn about any of that, and it's more about like fame and stuff of that nature. So there's some interesting dynamics and some really cool stuff going on. So from a non-spoiler side of the world, I love the first episode of Jupiter's Legacy. Now from the spoiler side of the world, let me show you why we had to sit down and talk about this show right now. Oh. Wow. Oh snap! That's the first episode? I didn't think that shot from the trailer would be this episode. Oh, that's cool camera. Oh, boy, those are cool camera shots. Like the way it spins this way. Oh, two blue lasers, I like. That's good. Oh, dope. It's a whole bunch. It's awesome. It's very Avengers Thanos-esque. Nice. That's awesome. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's very bad. Oh, no. Oh. Oh, Netflix is bringing that boys level violence. Got him. Oh, man.
There. That's better.
He's in his head. That was a crazy twist.
You just separated your mind from your physical body. While my brother and the rest of the team kicked the living shit out of you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, not in here, my friend. In here, I am God. And you are
Oh, no. Dude, that's the shot in the trailer. Oh, that's very far away. Oh, wow. His whole face is gone. Oh, my God.
What is wrong with you? We don't kill, ever.
He was gonna detonate that. He was gonna take you out in half the state.
And you disable his systems. You send him into space. There's a million things you could have done.
No, that was
It's
awesome.
an easy way out.
My dude is dead. Wait, what? What? But he...
The hell is this?
Yeah, what the hell is this?
It appears to be you.
Okay. Dude, I told you, man, like, there were just cool things going on with the heroes. I mean, some of the powers, I'm unfamiliar with all of these heroes, so the girl who had, like, the energy surging through, like, her bodysuit and then came into her hands, that was really cool. I liked the dude who turned his hands into actual flames, and that whole little conversation he has with the girl who was, like, sort of dating the Utopian's son, where he's like, yeah, I'm gonna just kick back and wait. Like, my hands turn into fire. What can I do against the bad guy that's that bad? And, you know, like, again, kind of just gives you an inkling of, like, that idea of, like, this young generation versus new generation. But when the fight moves over to where they are, like I said, like, the girl who powers up her hands, that was really cool. There is a girl where it's like, and again, it's like the idea of, like, beating other properties to visuals that look like this. And granted, you know, we've seen things of this nature in the new Mortal Kombat. We've seen things of this nature, you know, with, like, Nightcrawler in the X-Men movies. But this idea of somebody who can become invisible, and with the Fantastic Four looming, we're kind of seeing a way you can go about it that's, you know, not quite what, you know, it's like that concept is, and we've seen it with with the original Fantastic Four movies, but, like, what they did here was really cool, man. Like, when she's coming at Dark Fox or whatever, I told you about these names, but the bad guy, and she, like, shows herself and then disappears right as he's about to hit her and then comes on the other side. Granted, he does eventually catch her, and then dark matter beams her head off. Like, dude, there were I was not ready for the amount of death that we got here. Like, it's not Invincible level death, which also was a shocking revelation every episode of that show, but, like, I was not ready for that, and all of a sudden it's like you get this really cool, like, oh man, look how she becomes invisible and dodges the attack, and then, oh my god, he's holding her head and her body is no arm, her head is like, it was intense, and the entire battle really was. And I liked how you saw, like, the team teaming up to kind of fight him, gave you an Avengers style and looking fight and feel, right? Like, you get this feel of, like, this team coming together with something like the Avengers or you know, the Justice League. And that was another thing that I thought was real cool, was when you got to see like their house of justice, like it was a really cool setup, the way they had like their artifacts and stuff around the room. That's during that conversation between the Utopian and his brother, where they're kind of just talking about like, like Nazis walking around now. Like, I don't care they can call them whatever they want. They're Nazis. Just like all the different things. And then we'll go over to that. But the last 10 minutes, like it was just like I wasn't ready. And you get like this Avengers level kind of team up where you're like, I don't know any of these characters, but it's super cool to be diving into this right out the gate. Like, first episode, like we've already seen a whole team fight a bad guy that felt like he was on the level of a Thanos or something like that. And that dark matter energy beam was crazy, man. And then you see him like charge up and blast just to knock all of the superheroes away. And then he goes up for the big charge. Like, he's gonna, I don't know, man. It felt like he could blow up the entire world with how much energy he seemed to be pulling in. And you get, I believe it's Paragon, which is the Utopian son. He comes in and like charges up, and he's hearing his dad say like he's not ready. He's not even close to being ready. In a conversation that he could overhear, between his mom and his dad. And he just musters up all this energy, and you think he's gonna go like knock him, right? Like, I'm thinking traditional superheroes. Plus, at this point, we've already had Damal kind of lay out like the code, and like you can feel that vibe of superhero. And granted, we did just see the bad guy dice just blast a girl's head off her body, but I'm not expecting Paragon to do anything like detrimental. You're thinking he's gonna like grab him, take him into space or something, which is funny because Damal says you could have like knocked him out, you could have taken him to space. There were so many different things you could have done than what you did, and that's kill him, man. And he comes down with this punch that literally just blows his face off, man. Like, I was sitting there, you saw it. I mean, you saw it in the reaction. I was not ready for that, and that's one of those like level set things where all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's what happened in the first episode. I can't wait to see what we get next action-wise. And then to leave it with the villain actually being in prison. So, like, who was that from a different time zone? Like, is this a real Thanos thing? We got two of these Dark Foxes or whatever. I should probably look up his name. But, I mean, like, that was a crazy revelation. Right away, I'm like, I want to go right into episode 2, but I know I'm not going to have time to. So let's sit down and talk about episode 1, because, damn it, it was good. And like I said in my non-spoiler section, that piece where the Utopian and Brainwave are sitting down in their civilian clothes and just having a normal conversation, and and they're talking about like the way things are now and all this stuff. Like, it's crazy how the world is the way the world is, and Brainwave offers this interesting piece of like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, if we got more involved in the political side of things and the way things are regulated, and the Utopian just shuts it down. And he's like, what would you have us do? Like, if we extended our power, that like there goes free will eventually. Like, who could ever stop us? And it's that kind of concept of like a superpowered individual that can't be stopped. Could it rise if it was in power? So like the idea of trying to stay out of that, you're like, okay, that makes sense. But then the Brainwave like drops like, man, like, back in the day, I always wish we should have done more with the Nazis. And you're like, wait, what? And they're like, World War II, they stayed out of it. And the whole idea for the Utopians is like, mankind has to find its own way. We're here to help where we can and maybe stop like extinction level events. But apparently the Holocaust, trying to extinct an entire race of people, not big enough of an extinction level event, I guess. And it feels almost like you have superheroes who fight super villains, but something like a real war, we're not going to get involved in. And when you have something like The Boys and then a character like Homelander, which is a totally different approach to like wanting to be involved, and you can see where the Utopian's coming from with like, if you're involved that much in the government and things of that nature, and that power starts to push you up and no one can stop you, what happens? And we kind of seen that with Homelander. It makes sense to a degree, but you never kind of thought like, oh damn, like that's right, in this world, like if they live on Earth, like, the Holocaust happened. Hitler happened. If they're superhumans, and why wouldn't they go stop something like that? And to hear the Brainwave say, like, I wish we would have. Maybe we should have. Like, that's a really interesting conversation. And like I said, this is only the first episode, so I can't wait to see where this show goes. And like I said, I'm going to dive into the comics. I've had them marked on my my reading list on the web for a while, and I should just dive into them because, whew, blew my hair back with that first episode. So congratulations, Mark Miller and Miller World. I'm really excited for you guys and this whole Jupiter's Legacies team, man. I'm pumped because first episode, awesome. Should note, series showrunner Stephen DeKnight left after the first episode because of creative differences, which is unfortunate. Because he was a producer on the first season of Daredevil. He's produced Spartacus. He was a writer for Pacific Rim. Like, it feels like he can deliver on action, and when you see the action that you see in that first episode, holy cow! So I'll be really interested to see what we get from now showrunner Sang-Kyo Kim, who took over after DeKnight left. So I'll be interested to see if there's a switch up, because DeKnight's only credited for the first episode. His name is right there on the first episode. So I'll be really interested to see where that goes too. Hopefully Kyo Kim can keep delivering on what's here. I think if the content is good, it shouldn't be too hard to get there. So I'm pumped to see where we go with season 1. Like I said, if the episodes continue to blow me away like that one, maybe we'll do episode by episode, but I'll definitely do a full series review at some point. But those are all the Seaman's non-spoiler and spoiler thoughts on the first episode of Jupiter's Legacy. Now it's your turn, man. You had a chance to check out Jupiter's Legacy today. What'd you think of the first episode? Were you ready for that final 10 minutes? I mean, even the opening with Paragon and his first interaction and kind of that conversation that he ends up having with the Utopian, that was really interesting too, and showed some cool stuff. But our last 10 minutes was something totally different. So let me know what popped for you. Are you digging the show? How much of the show have you watched? Don't spoil anything past the first episode. But let me know what you dug in the episode, what you're digging if you're watching the show. If you haven't watched the show, tuned in for the non-spoiler portion. What is that? Are you enticed? Is it something you're going to check out? Is it on your list? What are you looking forward to? Everything you got to say about Jupiter's Legacy, specifically episode 1, good, bad, or indifferent, down below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the old Seaman anytime we're talking about Jupiter's Legacy. You want to see if we do episode by episode reviews or if it's just a full review at some point, because I don't even know which way we're going to go. You want to be here for that? You want to give the old Seaman a nice 35th birthday present? Well, it's real easy. Just come join Seamaniac Nation. You can do that by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. Until next time, for the Seamans, Cinema Sit Down. I've been the Seaman. I'm signing off. Peace! Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that Seamaniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.